Welcome back. This will be the last show of the year. I am really, truly hoping to grow this as much as possible. As some of you may know, I had a podcast before that it wasn't funded by me, and so that stopped. So I'm trying to get as many followers through here as possible and get as much of the message out to a lot of the American public, the world actually. I want everyone to find out the truth of what's going on in our nation's borders, the truth of what agents are going through, because I don't think that they understand that yet. It's not depicted well. There's a lot of attacks on law enforcement. There's always been a lot of attacks on Border Patrol agents, not just physical attacks, but verbal in the media. There's been a lot of people that talk about them as if they know what's going on. They criticize them for everything. So that is my actual plan with this Five Strands, is that I want people to really understand the truth of what's going on, share stories at the same time, hoping it can grow more and more. And in order to do that, I need you guys to hit the subscribe button, and I need you guys to share it. Subscribing is great, but I also want you guys to share it. To me, the sharing part is huge because I want people to know what's going on. Obviously, with the holidays upon us, it's been kind of crazy, and for me, I've been a nonstop busy. I did the Turning Point USA event. Also, it's been nonstop with interviews. I did them on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. I'm battling a cold, so that's why I sound a little rough today. I just got done doing another Fox this morning, and I did Fox last night. So it keeps going, and I'm very blessed to do that because I want people to know what is really, really happening. I know there's been some criticism, especially now with they're using the Jesus nativity scenes to attack ICE and talk about them. And I think a lot of these individuals, similar to how they use race, so they use race to attack law enforcement and Border Patrol. They also use religion, but they don't really understand how the entire religion aspect works. So they'll use bits and pieces here. So I encourage people all the time, look, do your own research when it comes to that. When you look at the Bible itself, if that's what they want to reference, they need to go look at the book of Acts and realize that it talks about boundaries there. Also, they need to realize that in the story of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, they weren't illegal immigrants. They were all under the Roman rule. And I guess when you would see them move out of the area where the king was, it was a king that was appointed by the Roman. Anyway, you got to go into politics on how the Romans dealt with it. But the easiest way to explain it, it's kind of similar to a governor. So if you want to say they were moving from one area to the other, they were actually moving from one state to another state because they didn't like the governor that was appointed there by the Roman Empire. So they need to really do their research when it comes to that, but obviously that's not going to fit their agenda. Similar to some of the interviews that I've been doing where they've been talking about how Hispanic Border Patrol agents are going to be ashamed of themselves at some point. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but unfortunately, it's a dumb thing that I've heard many, many times. So as a Border Patrol agent, I would hear it sometimes from the people that I would detain or people that were arrested. How do you feel arresting your own kind? How do you feel this? And then you start looking at a lot of the videos of Mexican law enforcement. And I'm sure there's others throughout the world, but I'm just going to pick on the Mexican side right now because that's the closest border I have and that's where I have relatives, is you have them pulling people over for whatever they want, and then they take their money. So it's just crazy to me why don't they go down to Mexico and confront that law enforcement and say something to them? Obviously, the outcome would be a lot different. And fortunately, but unfortunately, we do have laws here. But the unfortunate part is that you have a lot of criminals that utilize these laws as gray areas so they can get away with things. We just saw the individual, the fine young man that had been deported before, and now he's back. Then he was going to get sent out. Now he's back again. Now the judge released him, Abrego Garcia, and he made a TikTok video. I'm not entirely sure what he was singing or what it was. I haven't really paid attention. I don't have TikTok, but I know that it's frustrating for agents and for the agency, because for the longest times, if they would make an arrest, if there was some kind of case pending, no one can speak about it. And I think that's what people need to understand. Law enforcement can't speak about it, but you have the opposite side and the protesters and all their friends and everything else. They will go ahead and push out their own narrative, and by the time law enforcement comes out with the truth, it's sometimes too late, and people don't care to hear about it. They move on to the next story, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because we need to realize that that the media has a lot to do with how the narrative goes on who gets attacked and who doesn't get attacked. And unfortunately, it's been agents continuously getting attacked. And I know that they have it much better than they did under the last administration. However, they're still having to face a lot of the naysayers. They're getting a lot of attacks from groups, people in the media. Heck, my DM, if you look at my DM, it would blow your mind with some of the things that some individuals say to me, trying to curse me. Some go as far as to curse my whole bloodline. I had one guy just recently that keeps sending me messages criticizing me because I wear a black hat. And then I looked at his profile picture, and he's wearing, I don't know, some shirt that it looks like he got it from, the Peanuts cartoon, but he's criticizing my black hat. So you're going to find those people that are just going to poke, and it's much more difficult for agents and for law enforcement when they're out in the streets and they're getting, continuously attacked by these groups. So you make sure that your prayers are with them, especially during the holiday season. And because we're talking about the holiday season, Christmas came and went. Luckily, there was no major attacks in the United States, but it doesn't mean we cannot and we should not remain vigilant. I've been talking about that for quite some time. Please do so. Remain vigilant. If you do choose to carry a weapon, know the laws, get some training, and make sure that you're not caught up in those situations that we are talking about right now, where sometimes those that are following the law get the short end of the stick because the bad guys, they've been breaking the law for a long time, so they know how to circumvent it. They know the gray areas. So just make sure that you're aware of the laws in your state and what you can and can't do, and train as much as possible. That's always been a big deal to me. On that note, look, it's a new year that we have upon us. Let's hope it's a very good year for everybody. Obviously, I've always said remain vigilant, keep the agents, keep law enforcement in general in your prayers all together, and realize that there's people out there with their own agenda, unfortunately, and sometimes you're not going to change those individuals' minds. But we hope that we remain vocal, we remain being able to talk to people, especially in a civilized manner. But at the same time, those that take that extra step, I hope that law enforcement and politicians as a whole don't want this type of lawlessness, and there's actual consequences against individuals that are breaking the law, because that is what it comes down to. I wanted to talk also, before I let you guys go and wish you all a happy new year, is look, a lot's been said attacking these agents because they're Hispanic. I grew up on the border. I've said it many times. I used to see Border Patrol. They were always my heroes. They continue to be my heroes. And I always wanted to be an agent. And it comes down to, yes, I have Mexican descent. I have Spanish descent through my father. But people in Mexico, they don't call themselves Spanish Mexican or Mexican Spanish. They just call themselves Mexican. And I think that is a big tell-all sign for me. I don't call myself Mexican American. I call myself American. I have Mexican heritage and I have family that comes from Mexico, but I am an American, plain and simple. And I think that's where a lot of individuals need to start drawing the line, show where your loyalty is, the country that you are living in and where you're a citizen from. That doesn't depict your race. That has nothing to do with race. People keep confusing that for some reason. So just keep that in mind and make sure you explain it to people. I recently did an interview and somebody said, "Oh, you're Mexican American," and I stopped the person interviewing me. And I said, "I'm not Mexican American. I'm an American. I was born in Mexico and I have Mexican descent, and I'm not one of those haters, because I know somebody that is Hispanic is going to listen to me and say, 'Oh, look, he's a traitor and he thinks he's American.' I don't think I am an American. That's what it comes down to. And being an American is not a race. That's where people don't understand. On that note, till next year, stay safe and God bless."